Welcome back, Guardians. In today's report, we will investigate the allegations and the disastrous potentials of Guardians and the relationship to the force of light, and the unlikely event that we can lose it. This question, or theme of this report, has been echoed many times across Warlock orders and the Cryptarchs. It almost seems that everyone has an interest in the light and its beneficial properties, but few, if any, openly admit that there are certain negative repercussions to wielding and depending on it, as Guardians do. In this report, we will discuss the potential world of Guardians losing their connection to the light, how the light operates within us, and the Traveler's role in our grand saga of reconstruction. How could Guardians lose their light? This question is closely tied to how Guardians gain their light, but be mindful, what we are about to discuss are only theories. Much of the study of the light and its properties were lost during the collapse. When the Golden Age was at its height, humanity was entering an enlightenment phase on spiritual, governmental, social, and scientific fronts. This change towards the best version of humanity is commonly attributed to the Traveler's arrival and inherent influence. But there isn't a record of how exactly this change came about. How did humanity transform their life expectancy to hundreds of years of what wasn't natural, without losing their cognitive functions? The best record we do happen to have is ancient. It comes from the astronaut and pilot Jacob Hardy, stating, "It turned out well. Look at me, look at us. You're talking to a 90-year-old man, a 90-year-old who's never been sharper. I'm miles ahead of every cognitive benchmark." But the Golden Age has no records of Guardians, or their precursor title, risen. So, is it possible the light has had an effect on humanity directly? Or is Jacob Hardy's new resilient age a product of humanity's technological advancement? Unfortunately, we cannot prove or disprove that humans, prior to becoming Guardians, could wield light, but there is enough evidence to suggest that humans could be influenced or changed by it. A secondary opinion, but one that should be discussed: what the light is exactly. The older quote that still resonates with much of what we witness today does well to describe our current question. Any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. While some less qualified individuals may describe Guardians using their light as bearers capable of miraculous feats, it's more likely that the light is another unseeable force or energy, that when the right user is tuned to its frequency, it can be utilized for a wide array of feats. So if the light isn't some magical force wielded by those gifted enough to do so, perhaps it's an ability given by the Traveler in the form of Ghost Guardian symbiosis. But to be honest, there are a multitude of interpretations. For example, the accounts of the Iron Lords, specifically that of Lord Radagast, described a group of quote-unquote light bearers to be acting as warlords and vandals, actively misusing their powers. His records state, "All we have to fear is this." He pointed down at the dead warlords, "giving in, allowing the power of the light to blind us to what we truly are." Unfortunately, his records do not describe if these warlords were giving ghosts, but the records of the other Iron Lords do. The account of Lord Felwinter and the warlord of the 32nd subsector of Old Russia, Saitan, account a warlord or lightbearer being revived by a ghost. As so it is said, Saitan's ghost sparked into view from above, bringing its eye to bear on its fallen charge. The warlord emerged from a radiant column, a frenzied shout at his lips. Felwinter's shotgun cracked like thunder, once for the warlord, and again for his ghost. Perhaps, during the time of the Iron Lords, prior to the City Age, ghosts of Guardians did not have the ability, and perhaps still don't, to understand the true nature of right and wrong. Perhaps, to Saitan's ghost, what Saitan was doing in Old Russia was for the betterment of all, regardless of the means or loss of human life. Maybe a ghost can only be a guide for a guardian, not necessarily the path itself. It can be assumed, just like in the case of Raziel Azir becoming Dredgen Yor, a guardian's ghost is intrinsically good or close to the light, and any true deviation, jumping off the metaphorical cliff into one's base desires of evil, would force that ghost to leave its guardian. But it would also mean that the ghost is not required for a guardian to wield light, but only to be revived with the knowledge of its existence and potential uses. So perhaps, for the sake of this argument, perhaps guardians are given a connection with the light by the traveler's ghosts that allow them to wield the light, and they do not lose that ability regardless of their actions. At least, that's what we believed, until Gaul and his Red Legion destroyed our beloved city and arrested our traveler. Guardians from all over this city, even the strongest of us, our mentors, felt drained and dead, as if we'd been forcibly amputated of an unseen life-preserving limb. The theory here is that guardians and the traveler have an unseen connection, a certain tether, if you will, both bound to one another, and yet, strangely, both independent. This event, however particularly devastating it has been, has opened us to a new world of possibilities, one in which we can wield light without the direct influence of the traveler. Perhaps the traveler is a beacon or an amplifier of light, not necessarily its creator or supplier. What I mean by that more specifically is that the traveler is only an avatar of the light, its greatest protector and constructor. It doesn't rule the light, but acts in reverence of it. So if we continue off the assumption that the traveler acts as an amplification for the light, while not directly powering guardians, but giving humanity a way to actively wield the light. Perhaps light is all around us, and prior to the Golden Age, it always has been. But for it to be manifested into actual, usable energy, it takes a being like the Traveler to be present. The Traveler's presence allows for light to become dense enough, metaphorically speaking, of course, that it becomes a usable source. Or maybe it's much more simpler than this report intends to make it. Perhaps humanity was just blind to the light, as we are blind to ultraviolet rays or gamma radiation. We can't see these things with our eyes, but it does not mean they do not exist and imply forces upon our bodies. From the records of the first cryptarchs on the nature of the light, they explain it with a certain elegance, stating, "Only guardians have the gift of the traveler's light, the ability to channel its energies to project vast power into the world. Even without a firearm, a guardian is a radiant engine of destruction." An engine of destruction. An odd way to describe a savior or protector, but certainly it is accurate. But if guardians can lose their connection to the light, or at least have their attachment to it torn or weakened, what chance is there to gain their past strength back? Especially now with our backs against the wall, our last bastion under siege, and the vanguard scattered. The light has given us the ability to re-secure our lost identity as a people, and after the Siva crisis, it seemed, if only for a moment, we had started the path back down into a new golden age, one ripe with reconquest of our worlds and colonies. But this arrival of Gaul and his Red Legion have changed everything. But perhaps he has mistakenly given us a new opportunity, a chance to reconnect with the light without the need of the traveler, without the need of a beacon to amplify light for all of us to use. A world in which humanity is not dependent on a sleeping or dead god, but on one another, side by side, shoulder to shoulder. There are rumors, whispers, in the wilderness of the light's return to certain guardians, so perhaps there is a chance. Perhaps it's too small to act upon, but if we have just a single shard of hope, we must secure it. May the light find its way back to you, guardians. Hey everyone, Wally here. If you'd like to support the channel further, please feel free to check out the script link, my Patreon, and the new apparel in the Spreadshirt shop, all linked down below. If you want to join the conversation on our Discord server, we allow everyone in. Like the video if you enjoyed the content, and subscribe for more.